Hi, this is Percy from Swimming in Thought. Today we're going to look at a product called Oracle Virtualbox. And the reason why I'm talking about this today is because so many people don't realize that this actually exists. What is Oracle Virtualbox? It allows you to run virtual machines, very much like VMware, the free edition or Parallels. The great thing about VirtualBox is it's truly 100% free, and it's actually a very nice feature. So, what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how easy it is to set up an Oracle VirtualBox machine or a virtual machine on your computer. The great thing about VirtualBox is it's available for pretty much every major platform. So you've got Linux, you've got Mac OS, as well as Windows, and it works wonderfully. You can go to virtualbox.org if you would like to download it. And I've taken the point that we've already downloaded this product and I've installed it. Now I'm going to walk you through how easy it is to set up a virtual machine. In this particular case, I will actually be installing CentOS, which is a Red Hat. It's a derivative of Red Hat, but just pretty much an open source project based on the Red Hat distribution. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to set one up, set up a virtual machine, get it running, and that should be about it. So anyway, first things first, when you first start up VirtualBox, you'll actually see that it gets to the VirtualBox Manager. In this particular case, we're just going to hit New for New Machine, and I'm just going to type Percy's CentOS Box. Now, I can choose a type here. Am I installing Windows, Linux, Solaris, BSD, OS2, Mac OS, or other? In this particular case, I will be installing Linux. And CentOS and Red Hat are pretty much the same OS, so I'm going to choose Red Hat 64-bit because I don't know anybody that installs anything 32-bit anymore, but then again, there may be a need for it. So I'm setting the profile to 64-bit. Now I just hit Next. How much RAM do I want? Memory size is RAM, random access memory. In this particular case, you can just adjust the slider to the max, which is what you have on your machine, or nothing. Let's just set it at 4 gig. I'm being lazy, don't really feel like doing the slider, so I'm just going to just type in right here the number of megabytes, which is 4096, which is 4 gig. Hit Next. Hard drive. If you're creating a virtual machine, you're not going to have your own hard drive. So you're not going to have a virtual hard drive yet. This is nothing more than a special file that sits on your existing PC, wherever it is you're running VirtualBox. And this virtual file, or what I'm going to call a canister, actually is your virtual hard drive. So for the virtual machine, I'm going to hit Create. Here are the different hard drive types. I like to use VMDK. Everybody's different. For the purposes of this particular video, let's just hit VMDK just to make it simple. You can use anything you want. Why would you want to use a Parallels hard disk, for example? You may have Parallels on your system and you might want to mount that hard disk to get access to those files from within Parallels in the future. But in this particular case, it's a lot easier just to do VMDK for me. Everybody's different. Hit Next. Now, there are two types of file systems or storages that you can have. Storages, yeah, like that's really a word. Storage devices or virtual storage devices, and dynamically allocated means that the file size will grow as you need more space. I don't like that. Things get really ugly really fast on some computers with fixed resources. I have some pretty nice resources in my computer, not so much worried about it, but I'm still going to stick with fixed size. This way I know what I've got and I just have to manage it within there. If I need additional hard drive space for this virtual machine in the future, I can just create another virtual hard drive canister and attach it to the machine, and we're good to go. I'm going to hit Next. Okay, file location and size. In this particular case, I am just going to choose the file location. Sorry about that. First, I have to name the virtual hard drive file, so I just named it Percy CentOS Box. Right here, this little button right here, it looks like a folder with a little green arrow pointing up. This is where you choose your location. You'll click it and it'll look exactly the same. just going J, and I've already created a place for it. Work file directory. J drive is my existing Thunderbolt array, so I'm getting 1 gig transfers back and forth. Really nice. In other words, it's going to be faster than my SSD, which is internal to this particular box. Hit save, and now I'm going to choose how big do I really want this box. Let's just say 12 gig. You can pick any number you want. Minimum is usually already pre-selected. Could be 8 gig, could be 4 gig. You can just do the slider thing here. I like 12. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes, so 12 gig should be more than enough. I hit create, and at this point now I'm going to be creating the drive. Now you'll notice that in this particular case it's moving very quickly to create a 12 gig file. Your computer will probably be slower unless you do have the Thunderbird array, a Thunderbolt array like I do, and that will of course make things much peppier. But in this particular case, 12 gig in, I don't know, whatever, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, not too bad. Okay, so now we're done. I'll now see that Percy CentOS box is a real virtual machine ready to go. In theory I could just hit start, but if I do, what's going to happen is it's going to ask for a startup disk, and that's the whole point. There's nothing on there. So let's just wait and chug chug chug. There you go. See, this is a virtual machine. That would be what the screen looks like on that machine. No bootable medium found. Of course not, because I didn't put anything in there yet. So let's power off the machine real quick. Go here, right click, and on the virtual machine, I'm going to hit settings, and here's where I can actually make changes to the virtual hardware. I'm just going to make 2 changes real quick right here. I'm going to go to system. Here's the boot order that I have. Floppy, well, here's the thing, don't have a floppy, never going to use it, so no need to have it. So it's going to boot from CD-ROM first, then hard drive. It's just like the BIOS settings in your computer. If you do have BIOS. Processor, how many CPU cores do I actually want to dedicate to this particular virtual box? This particular case, I think I'm just going to dedicate, let's dedicate 6 cores. Why am I dedicating 6 cores? Because this is going to make this video and the install go a lot faster. Acceleration. Check these if you can check them. If you can check them, then what this does is this actually enables the virtualization extensions from your CPU and chipset. I happen to have i7 Intel CPUs, so of course they have the virtualization and they're incredibly fast. And I like to enable nested paging because, again, nested paging will also make the system fast. Again, these are chipset dependent functions, so if you have the ability to check them, I would highly suggest checking them. Display, video. Here you can adjust the amount of RAM for your video card, or your virtual video card in this particular case, and of course how many different monitors you want, and you can have up to 64. Why anybody would have 64 monitors is seriously beyond me, but then again, there are some people that would. You can enable 3D acceleration. I always keep that enabled just because. But then again, in this particular case, I'm not going to enable it because we're just installing a command line CentOS box, VirtualBox. Remote display. If you don't actually want to do things inside of the VirtualBox manager, you can actually connect via RDP or remote desktop. Windows has a built-in remote desktop client that you can actually connect to port 3389 on this particular box and be up and running. There are only 2 things that I need to change here that are of importance for this particular video. Storage, I want to verify that my storage is there. 12 gig, it's attached. Good. I have a CD-ROM here. I'm going to choose the CentOS install distribution ISO. I downloaded that earlier, so that's already installed. So now what I've done is I've effectively mounted the CentOS ISO into the CD-ROM drive. In other words, it acts like it is actually in the CD-ROM drive. if this were a physical machine. Audio. Don't really care about audio. Again, this is a Linux box, and I'm only using this for test purposes, so no need to have audio. One thing that is important here, network adapter. In Virtualbox, you can have up to 4. Again, these are 4 physical virtual adapters. If you're running Linux or you're running Windows or you're running Mac OS, you can have multiple virtual interfaces. You can have, and that's completely operating system dependent. So I wouldn't worry about it. This just tells this particular Virtualbox that this particular virtual machine has however many physical adapters. You can have up to 4. I'm only going to have 1. I'm going to enable it right here. And I am actually going to bridge the adapter to my existing Ethernet adapter. I can bridge it to any one of my other adapters that I want. I'm going to bridge it to this one. And what does bridge mean? It means it shares the actual adapter. It will look exactly the same. Ultimately, it makes your network subsystem look like a switch. So it actually looks like you're plugging 2 separate computers into a virtual switch, which is going to be the actual physical Ethernet interface on this particular box. And look at the advanced settings. What kind of adapter type do I actually want to emulate? I'll emulate a Pro 1000 MT desktop, promiscuous mode. I like to keep it on allow all, but then again, I do know what I'm doing. Most people don't. It's up to you, but it doesn't hurt. You can always change it later. So I'm just turning it on. MAC address right here. This is a pre-assigned randomly generated MAC address. Feel free to change it to whatever you want. Just remember it's in hex. Cable connected. This is how we virtually connect the virtual adapter to the network. In this particular case, it's checked because I want it connected. And we are now good. Serial ports, no serial ports. I've enabled the USB controller if we're not going to use any USB devices, and you can turn it off. For timing purposes, for certain applications like asterisk, you might want to enable this. It doesn't hurt. USB controller is a great timing source other than the hardware clock. And now we're going to hit shared folders. Of course, allows you to share a folder on the machine plus the host machine, so you can actually just drag and drop files back and forth. I don't like to use shared folders because I find that it's a little bit of a security issue for me. So even though it's on my own machine, if this were a Windows box, I like to keep the 2 separate. If I need to get data from my host machine to my virtual machine, I'll either SCP it, which is a secure copy, and it'll be done via the virtual interface. So it's meaningless, from a time standpoint and transfer standpoint. Or I can FTP it or whatever the case may be. In this particular case, like I said, I'm just leaving the shared folders option off. Many of you will leave them off. So anyway, let's hit OK. So now that we've done that, we can double check our configuration right here. Does this look good? Okay, I got 6 cores bound to it, 4 gig of RAM, I got a virtual CD-ROM and a hard drive. All of my accelerations turned on. I've got 12 meg of video memory with no RDP, remote desktop server, again because I didn't want remote displays. And I've got the IDE secondary master and the CD DVD ROM virtual CD drive. I have the CentOS ISO DVD 1 quote unquote mounted, which means that it looks like that particular DVD is in that virtual drive. I've disabled audio. Again, I'm not going to be using audio. No need for me to have it. And I've got 1 adapter enabled, and it is bridged to my Broadcom Net Extreme gigabit adapter. So we're ready to go. I'm going to hit start, and let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, guess not. All right, install or upgrade. So I'm going to click inside this machine now, and now I'm captive in the virtual machine. So I'm going to install and upgrade an existing system. As you'll see, it's now booting off the virtual CD, which was the ISO that I actually mounted in the drive. Chug, chug, chug. We're waiting. This is exactly what you would actually see if you had a fresh hardware install with a CD-ROM drive on the CentOS. DVD. So now, do we want to test the media? If you've just downloaded the media, I would always recommend absolutely test it. If you've used it before and you know it's good, no need to test it. You hit skip. I'm going to skip right now. Okay, and I'm going to have to, hold on.